Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The manhwa starts with a mage casting an ability, and another mage blocking it for his party. He says that it's over now, and he points his wand, telling the labyrinth master to try to block this. As he starts to cast the giant beam, he shoots forward as the labyrinth master puts up 3 giant magic circles to block the attack. It comes into contact with the circle before completely shattering through it, and it flies straight toward the labyrinth master, erasing him, causing a giant explosion in front of the party. Then we see that it was just for a game, as he has cleared the dungeon master difficulty, and they thank him for playing Abyss of the Labyrinth. The dude hits a fat nasty stretch, saying that he finally did it and that the game sure does get nasty at higher difficulties, but having a mage as his main character helped him a lot as well. The difficulty he was just on is called turn-based master. He says that he should upload a strategy video for this one too, but something catches his eye, as it asks if he would like to challenge the final difficulty, which is developer. He says that he's about that shit, and to run it. The game warns him that he's going to have to select a special ability, that he only got this by clearing the turn-based master difficulty. He says that he's never seen this ability before, but if it sucks, he'll just reroll. And then he's going to stay as a mage, of course. We see that his mage's name is Calum. He's going to dump all 10 points into intelligence, as he is 0 on every other stat but int. He clicks start game, and his screen starts to turn into the world's brightest flashlight, but it's not just that, as it completely sends a blue light out of his apartment. He then yells and hears someone telling him to wake up. His eyes jolt open, and the dude's holding onto his collar, calling him a criminal, telling him to snap out of it already. He wonders if the guy is talking to him, saying this must be a dream, because he can't be a criminal, as he's been doing nothing but gaming. The dude sees him laughing, asking if he thinks this shit is funny, and throws him to the floor. He says that it's better to lose his mind now than later, as he's going to die anyway. The dude says this must be a dream, wondering why it hurts, but most of all, why this dream is so vivid. A man stands before a giant gate, telling everybody that everyone's been given a magic wand. Everybody here has been turned into a slave for their crimes, and the labyrinth is their one and only chance to change their fate. If they make it out alive, they can use the money earned in the maze to buy their freedom, and if they wish, they'll even have a chance to enroll in their magic academy. He's looking down at his hands now, saying that this is straight up out of Abyss of the Labyrinth, and says there's no way he's suddenly inside of this game. The mage then continues, saying that everybody is going to descend in order. As he's going in with his party now, he says that he has no idea what's going on, but this is the character he just created, Calum. And if this is the labyrinth from the game, then whatever monster they meet is going to be brutal, and he needs to figure things out now, and he should check the abilities of those who entered with him. He turns, and one of the dudes says that everybody should stay calm as a divine prophecy just came down, and it told him that they're all going to die. Bro is just straight delusional. Going to call him Calum until we learn his name, and he says that they're all losing it. Calum tells them to get a grip, saying that they can make it out if they stay calm, and they should move slowly and look for an exit. Porkchop starts hauling ass, saying that they need to get him out of here right now, and Calum wonders what the hell he's doing all of a sudden. Then blood gets shot out, and he stares at it, as the pig has been impaled by 2 spears. Everybody is anxious, as what they see is a goblin before them. The lunatic says that it's just like he told them, and the elf girl is starting to freak out. The lunatic then says the prophecy wasn't wrong, before a spear takes his head off. The goblin starts drooling and looking at the girl as she's freaking out and falls onto the floor. Calum realizes this is bad, as the goblin starts charging in. He says that he can't go out like this, as the 2 goblins leap at him. He looks over, saying that he's done for because he can't dodge, but his hourglass of turns activates, which is his special ability. Time freezes for 60 seconds during one turn, and he gains 4 action points, and it automatically activates in critical situations. As his pupils start to have an hourglass in them and show his action points, the status window says it's his turn and he has 60 seconds. Time starts counting down, and Calum wonders what the hell is going on, because time is now frozen. He says that he thought it would be something with time based off the name of the ability, but he didn't think it would be this broken, but now he's got a minute he can think. First, he can raise his wand and block the blade, and it takes away one of his action points for doing that. He says that at this rate, he won't have enough to dodge or defend, and he lets out a sigh, realizing he has to lock in. He says that if he can't move, how did he just sigh though, wondering why it didn't take away an action point from him. We see that it's because that counts as him typing in the chat, and he says that if it's because it's created as a chat input, then he knows what he must do. He raises his wand once more, taking another point away, and he only has 6 seconds now. He points it towards both of the goblins, and with 5 seconds on the clock, it continuously goes down, and he uses his last action point. He yells fireball, and now that all action points are depleted, his turn has ended, and he has a 60-second cooldown on the hourglass. That's kind of broken. Fire begins to form at the tip of his wand, and as the goblins are about to finish killing him, he shoots out an absolute pillar of flames, obliterating the both of them. The elf is absolutely speechless, and Calum just sits there, looking at the scorch marks on the ground. The realization sets in as he starts panting, and he wonders what he did to deserve this, as he almost just gets killed for no reason like some nobody. If this really follows the same rules as the game when it comes to mages, nobody knows more than he does. There is no telling how long it will take for him to find the exit, so first he needs to do some farming, and then find reliable teammates. As he starts digging through their corpses, he looks over at the elf girl and asks what spell is embedded in her wand. She says it's lightning shock, but she's never used one before. He says it's better than nothing in size, saying she'll have to use it whether she's practiced or not, because if a monster charges her, she shouldn't hesitate to fire, and they have to go find the exit gate. He says regardless of who dumped him into this hell, if it's a developer or God, he'll survive and get out of this. For those of you who also noticed, I believe this is the same artist from Kill the Hero, a complete series on the channel. If you haven't watched it, check it out. We get some lore on the game and how a few years ago, the labyrinth erupted, and monsters that poured out from there covered the surface. As a result, countless adventurers and mages died. In order to train mage and explore the labyrinths, they started throwing in slaves and raised the ones who survived, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That's pretty much the story of the game. There's no guarantee that everything he knows is correct, so he wants to be cautious. The elf thanks him for getting her to tag along, and she introduces herself as Yurnal. He says it's not a big deal and tells her his name is Calum. They have a little bit of awkward silence, and she says that he's very calm and quiet. On the slave ship, he talked a lot with the other people. This catches him off guard, and he says that he didn't expect to have to deal with people who knew about him before he took the body, and that he needs to be more careful. She says that she used to live in the fairy forest and got a job at the errand center, but it turned out that it was distributing drugs disguised as packages, and she ended up being framed and couldn't pay the fine, so she was forced into slavery. He understands that she kept talking because she's scared, and then he tells her to please be quiet as she steps on a pressure plate. His hourglass ability activates as we see he has 4 moves, and it tells him that it's his turn. He turns, wondering if he stepped on a trap as well. He has a minute, so he tells himself to stay calm and analyze his surrounding area. Traps on the first floor usually involve shooting out from the walls, and fortunately, there are no holes on Yurnal's side where something could shoot out. He looks at his side, saying that it's wasteful, but he has to use some action points to check. He says fortunately there are none, and he looks up saying that since there are none on the ceiling, meaning it must be a floor trap. There are 4 types of floor traps on the first floor of the labyrinth. First, the rising spike trap. Spikes pierce vertically through the floor and crush your feet. Second, the exploding nail bomb trap. The explosion radius is wide, so neither could avoid serious injury. And third, the poison gas or sleep gas trap. Perfect situation to become monster food. And fourth is the pit trap that makes you fall to the second floor. This one really has no solution. Since the hourglass activated, it means there's a threat to him too. While he can rule out number 1, there's not enough time to prepare for the rest. As the timer starts ticking down, he grows anxious, saying that this is pissing him off. If he lifts his foot, he'll just be in danger, so he needs to step on it as well so she can't lift her foot. He stomps down using his last action point, and since all of them are exhausted, it ends his turn. She continues carrying her momentum and walks forward, tripping over him. As she starts to fall, she asks what he's doing. He tells her that she stepped on a trap, and it's a trap that explodes the moment your foot is lifted, so he stepped on it instead. She starts panicking, wondering what to do, and he asks if she remembers the oak barrel they passed earlier. She says yes, and he asks if she could go grab it. She says that she'll be right back. Imagine if she ran into another trap. But he says that these kinds of traps can be handled by placing a heavy object on them, and he only needs to wait about 10 minutes. But it's been a whole 30, and he grows worried, saying that there's no way she got caught in another trap, or maybe she encountered monsters, and it might have been crazy for him to step on the trap in her place. He says that he should have been more selfish, but we hear her panting, saying that she brought it, and she apologizes for being late. It was just really heavy. He says she did well and just put it on the tile that he's standing in. She says okay, and he says that now that they're far enough from it, he wants to switch to the telekinesis magic wand first. And there might be an unexpected new trap, so checking is essential. He makes it move using his wand, and a giant explosion goes off, sending out a gust of wind throughout the room. He says now they can go, and he's glad that the trap was what he thought it was, and now it's not just the monsters, but he's worried about traps too. Dealing with both of these is going to make it a hassle, but there's a lot of hope. Since he has the initiative with the hourglass, and since it's still the first floor, 10 intellect should be enough. However, whether he can activate the hourglass when he wants, and that he needs to be sure if magic casting consumes action points. A goblin steps up, and he says this is the perfect chance as they start smiling, thinking they found prey. The hourglass activates, and he casts Fireball, and it takes one of his action points. We see that it also puts the spell on cooldown for 5 seconds, and time is still frozen while the spell is being chanted. It starts to go down, and he casts another Fireball, taking another action point. He says that with these two, it should be more than enough, and he ends his turn as they both fly down the hallway, exploding on the goblins, and it starts burning them to a crisp. He says theoretically, he can shoot 4 fireballs in a single turn. Urinal is just surprised, saying that he seems to have the ultra-high speed casting talent and chantless casting as well. He asks if it's that impressive, and she says yes, even just having one would make him amazing, and she's weak and can't even use magic, and she's no help and just causes trouble, and she's done nothing but cause trouble already. Maybe she should grab that bow off the ground. But Calum thinks about it, saying that she's definitely useless as a warrior or mage, but since she's an elf, he's sure that she's agile, so he asks how far she can jump. She thinks about it, saying that when she was in the fairy forest, it was about 4 meters or so. He's surprised, saying that that means her agility is at least 5 or more, and tells her to wait a moment. Calum grabs the bow, asking if she would try using this, and they just got it from the goblin. She says that she's actually way more comfortable with the bow, as she often shot one in the forest. He says this works out well, and that she can just provide support from the rear while he uses his wand. She says that she'll try to buy time so he can use magic comfortably, and he says in the end, he's ended up collecting everybody else's wands, including hers. She then hears something and says that someone is behind them. He then quickly turns, checking both sides of the hallway, but doesn't see a soul, and tells her that he doesn't see anything. He says that she's serious, and she heard a sound from over there. He then starts to have an idea, telling her to close her eyes for a moment. She starts wondering why, but thinks he has to pee, saying that she understands. He then throws some stones, asking if she could tell where and how many have fallen. She listens for the sound and says that there's about 3 of them, 4 steps away. He says there's no doubt about it. She has the ability to hear and judge the position, and it's called sound mapping in the game. He asks how many people she says are following, and she says there's 4, quickly approaching. He doesn't know why they're following, but considering the worst case scenarios, it won't be easy since they have to face a party where everyone survived. He says for now, they should hide instead. As they start running, he says they can hide around the corner and wait until the enemies come. They hide anxiously, wondering if they're going to continue pursuing them, and the footsteps keep getting louder and louder. Realizing that he has to do something, he steps out, asking why they're chasing them, and she draws her bow too. One of the men says they have no business with him, but that elf girl is something they really want a piece of. The dudes then tell him that if he hands over the elf, they'll let him live. As he holds 2 wands at them, this is really a fantasy Bloods versus Crips. The dude tells him that low-tier magic won't pierce his shield. The same goes for her toothpick-like arrows, and chanting won't work either, as an arrow will hit him in the head first. He shouldn't waste his strength and just make it easy instead and join their party, making it a 5-man. And the elf, they can all just run a train on her, asking him if it sounds good to him. Urnal calls out to him in a panic, and they continue, saying that it's safer to travel with the 4 of them than this elf. But Calum says that's not happening. He could sleep with her keeping watch, but with them around, he wouldn't be able to close an eye. He tells them to cut the shit and get lost unless they want to die. Urnal is excited that he's on her side, and the dude says that surely he's joking. Calum says that he's dead serious. And the dude sighs, saying that he has no choice then, telling his men to kill him. As he starts to release the arrow, the hourglass activates, with a minute now on the clock. Calum says that he clearly gave them a chance. Maybe the dual wands just look like a defensive stance to them, but if that's what they thought, they're gravely mistaken. His foot is in a puddle, and his lightning type wand is going to be a perfect pair. Usually, it can only shock once, but with water, it's a different story. He casts lightning shock, taking one of his action points, and it zaps forward, flying directly towards the group. As time is still frozen, he says once they're electrocuted, they'll drop the shield, so he'll aim for them one by one. He casts fireball, taking another action point. He says he'll shoot the first shot into the puddle, and then the next one at the bald guy. He raises his wand, taking an action point, and casts fireball. And now he is out of action points. With this, his turn is now over. As the dual fireballs and the electric shock fly in towards the group, they look worried. The lightning zaps into the water, electrocuting all 4 of the men, causing them to scream and convulse. They drop their weapons, just as he had planned, and helplessly watch as a fireball flies in. It hits the water, creating mist, blocking their vision. In a panic, he tells everybody to scatter before the fireball flies in, and it explodes directly on them, sending out another shockwave throughout the tunnel. He tells Urnal to fire, and she listens for their movements before releasing a shot through the mist. We hear one of them screaming. He says that with her sound mapping, this is more than enough. He tells her to continue shooting. His spell cooldown is not up yet, and she has to take out at least one of them. And the bald guy probably got hit by the fireball, so he just needs to handle the rest. She shoots another shot, and his fireball is still on a 2-second cooldown, and he wonders why 5 seconds feel so long. He tells her to target the warrior first, he's almost ready. She wonders what he's talking about since she got them all already. He's surprised, and he says he only heard 2 arrows being fired. The mist finally starts to settle, and we see an arrow in one of their chests, and an arrow through another guy's skull as it pierced Homie's throat. He says that that's a collat. A collat is crazy, and she's scarier than he thought. She says that she was just scared. She worked really hard to make that shot. The bald guy is still alive and starts coughing up blood. His hands are gone though, and he wonders if he fainted. Calum says that he's glad he's alive, and he asks him what's his deal, since he can cast magic without chanting, and why he's even in a place like this. And this world is just so damn unfair. He says that's rich. They brought this on themselves the moment they tried to take advantage of a woman in the dungeon. He says none of them chose this. He got expelled for not having talent in magic and sold into slavery. If he even had half the talent he did, his life wouldn't have turned out this way, and it's all just a damn mess. As he starts to bleed out, he goes limp. Calum looks down, and Urnal apologizes, saying that she's sorry for being wrong, saying that she killed them all. He tells her that there's no need to apologize, as it's thanks to her they're safe, and then asks if this was really her first fight. She says it was the first time she's ever aimed at a person. And he says that's the same for him, but it's something they need to get used to survive, and they should check what they had on them. He says it's his first time killing someone, but he feels so calm. Once he thought he was going to die, maybe he's already mentally grown since then. And if that's true, it's not gonna help him get used to this awful stench of blood and burning flesh, as that just reeks. She then brings one of the backpacks, and he wonders what's the deal with it. He says it was probably something that another adventurer had, and they stole it. There's a handkerchief, a Bible, a frying pan, some bread, a knife, and a rope, and a wallet. They open the wallet, seeing that it's from an F-ranked adventurer named a Bison. She says that his face doesn't match either of any of them, and Calum says he's probably the real owner of this backpack. Either he died and they looted it, or he got left behind and killed. And now that he thinks about it, even in the game, there were lots of ways to die. And that bald guy seemed to at least understand the basics of combat layout and positioning, but he never expected he'd use his ability or that he'd manipulate the environment. Calum says that if the situation were reversed, he probably wouldn't have considered that possibility either. He would have ended up just like him. But that hourglass, he would have already been dead. Depending on only luck and ability like this isn't really his style. Frustrated, he tells her they need to get. And he needs a thorough and flawless strategy with 0 variables, because his life is on the line. And it's time for him to finally admit it. This is no longer a game, but to him, it's a reality that he must clear. It jumps to later, as Urnal is panting, and they're walking down a hallway. Calum glances over, saying that 12 hours of goblin hunting would tire anyone out, and he asks her if she wants to rest. She gets excited, asking if he's sure, and then they set up a fire and use some pillars as a sitting stool. She hands him a piece of bread, telling him to eat this, and he thanks her. She then calls out to him and thanks him for saving her twice today. He says not to mention it, as she did all the work. They also collected tons of magic stones, thanks to her, and she says that if he had accepted their offer back then, she doesn't know what would have happened. He asks why he would do that. Yes, he would never abandon trustworthy comrades. She starts to cry since he called her a comrade, and she says that he should sleep first, and she'll keep watch. He then immediately rests, saying that he'll do it without hesitation, thanks to her. As he falls asleep, the status window says he's now entering rest mode. His level has also increased from level 1 to level 3. He says that he didn't expect to only level up when sleep mode is triggered, and we see that he has 2 stat points to distribute. He says that his 10 intellect is from the original stat points, and the +2 is from dual wielding the wands. He needs 13 to smash goblin shields, and he maxed it out in the game as well. So he's just going to go that route. As he puts it in, he also spots Urnal's name. We see that she also went from level 1 to level 3. She is all in on agility, with 2 points in dexterity. He says that she is a classic elf, and that this is insane because she has 2 dex base. As expected, she had the sound mapping skill, which is what he thought. He decides to max out her agility, and rest mode is now over. He says that now he's back to reality, it's her turn to sleep. She thanks him and immediately rolls over in the bed in the sleeping bag, saying she's waited for this for so long. She sees him putting the shield up against the wall, asking him what he's doing. He says he's just testing, and this spot should work. She asks what he's testing, as he pulls out the fireball staff. He points it towards the shield, then lets it rip. The fireball shoots out, sending the shield into pieces around the hallway. He says that his fireball is definitely stronger now, and this is not just a dream. She's surprised that it actually shattered the shield, and says this is unbelievable, before knocking the hell out. He says next they'll have to go find the exit gate, and we see her sleeping, and he says that she must have been exhausted. Their fire is now burned out, and they start leaving. She wonders how long it'll take to find the exit. He says that's hard to say. Exit gates are randomized and pure RNG. His luck as a transmigrator is probably the worst, and it might take even a week of grinding. But that's wrong, as he's immediately surprised as they've already found an exit room, and there are adventurers guarding it. Their gear suggests a veteran party, so they should be cautious. He raises his wands and calls out to them. They recognize their slave outfits, asking if they're from the Magic University slave team. Calum says yes, and he says there's no hostility, but it sure is awkward. The dwarf asks the priest named Emma when the university last sent slaves here. She says it was around yesterday at 10 a.m. The dwarf says that if it's only been a day and a half, and they've reached this long and are still alive, it sure is impressive. And since the elf ditched magic for a bow, that's sure smart. She's still scared. The dwarf asks if he's confident in the fact that he can dual wield wands. Calum says yes. The dwarf says that's good, as false modesty is pointless, wondering if he has a fireball wand. Calum tells them that he does. The dwarf asks his other party member, the cat guy named Zickle, what he thinks. Zickle says they can't just keep sitting around here. Emma says that if he's confident, they can just recruit him. The dwarf reminds them that he's still just a slave, and compared to a bison's level, he'll probably disappoint. They say it's true, but they don't have better options. Calum recognizes the name as the owner of the backpack, and asks if they lost a mage comrade. The dwarf says they did, as they met a black hornet on the first floor, and he got bodied in an instant. It was the first comrade he's liked in years. It's a shame to lose him. Emma says he's not dead, as she casts soul preservation, and a revival scroll can still save him. The dwarf says they can't leave to go get one, calling her a genius. Zickle says they need to decide already. Calum says they found the exit, but there's a gate boss inside that requires a mage. He wonders what it could be, since they have a priestess, not an undead. If it's a troll, salamander, or brass goat, their party should be able to handle those. If the boss is a flying type, they have definitely picked Yrnil, since she's an archer, yet they need a mage with fireball wands. There's only one answer. He smirks, saying he has a question, asking if the boss is a venomous spider. Emma's surprised, asking how he knows, and even Zickle is. The dwarf asks if he knows his dungeons, and Calum says a little bit. A venomous spider is a monster that spams lethal venom and webs. The exit room is already webbed up, and it zips across the ceiling at insane speeds, attacking to inflict slow and bind. One misstep and you end up in its webs, and you're dead. And only a fire mage can counter it, burning the webs to force it down onto the ground, then finishing off, which is a standard tactic. He says this must be why they desperately needed him. Emma says she's in, and we finally learn that the dwarf's name is Virtanen, and she tells him that it's his call. Zickle says it's the same. Whatever flaws he may have, he sure is quick-witted. The dwarf thinks about it, and realizes this is a good opportunity, asking if they would like to join them temporarily. Calum says no instantly. They're all just confused, wondering why. Even Yrnil asks why they're refusing this good chance. He says it's only a good chance to defeat the boss. He says that after that, the exit gate will appear, and they'll have a chance to escape. But they are omitting one detail. Only 4 can pass. She now realizes what that means, and he says that the gate destabilizes with each person. Collapse accelerates, and it'll be gone in 5 minutes, so only 4 people can escape. Their party has 1 slot left, which is why they need him. In other words, they're telling him to abandon her. Her eyes start to swell up with tears. Virtanen says that it's quite impressive he figured that out, and double-checks his name since he heard Yrnil say it. He says they didn't intend to hide it, and he's sorry for that, and it would be nice to take them both out. But they only need a mage, and he wants to give him a chance to at least make it out alive, and that he should leave her behind right there. She starts to grow worried, wondering what he's going to do, and he thinks about it, saying that it's a sweet offer, and he was tempted for a moment. But if he can't escape slavery even after getting out, he'll just be thrown back into the labyrinth again. The important question is, he doesn't know if they'll continue to party with him, but there's no way, as he'll be thrown into another party of worthless slaves, and he'll never be lucky enough to find another slave with Yrnil's skills. He says that Yrnil is his comrade, and he can never abandon her. They're all surprised, and I don't know why she is when he already refused the gangbang parade. He says rather than that, he'd like to make a proposal. How about they all hire him instead? Virtanen asks what he means, and if he's saying that he won't go for the exit gate, and yet wants to be paid. He sure is interesting, wondering how much he wants. He tells them 10,000 gold, and Virtanen gets pissed. Yrnil asks if he even knows how much that is, and Calum says of course he does. The magic stones and the backpack they gathered on the first floor are both things that, if they sold, they could get around 2,000 gold. Both of their prices as a slave are 3,000 each. With 10,000, he can clear their status and even secure some emergency funds. The party starts arguing, and Emma and Zickle think they should just do it. Calum says that a party that hired a cleric notorious for being expensive means that their funds are more than enough, and they seem pretty exhausted, and they want to escape. The most important reason is a bison. They need to bring back the scroll and resurrect him before the body with soul preservation magic is damaged, so they must be short on time. They have no choice but to accept his terms. Zickle wonders what he's worried about, as it's not like there's any other mages. Calum says that for the sake of trust, he would like the cleric to swear an oath in the name of the goddess Nathaniel. Emma agrees, saying that a covenant can never be broken. Virtanen, realizing he could bargain, asks for 9,000. Calum says 9,500 instead. Virtanen then tries 93, and Calum is adamant with his 95. Virtanen can't believe he's going to do it, but realizes he has no other choice, and says fine. Calum says he won't regret this, and the dwarf says he certainly hopes not. Emma then tells them to come this way, and she says from this moment forth, in the name of the goddess Nathaniel, she will form this covenant. That Virtanen, Zickel, and herself are promised to hire Yurnal and Calum for 9,500 gold. The condition is that their party will exit through the gate, and if either of the two parties is wiped out, the contract is void. She asks if both representatives agree, and they do. Calum then opens the door, saying it's time for them to head in. As they all head into the boss room with the spider webs everywhere, Calum says it's dark, and he can't see well. The boss is probably hiding in the ceiling right now. He looks over to his side, noticing a neutral object, as he calls it, saying it's filled with explosives. Most rooms will have a neutral item apparently. Virtanen tell them to watch out for the webs on the floor, and if he steps on them, they're hard to get off. Calum says they need to find the boss first. Virtanen says all they have to do is burn the webs, and he shouldn't try to be a hero. He then hears a sound that makes a chill run down his spine, and they look up, seeing a web shooting out from the ceiling directly down towards him. Virtanen deflects it with his axe and tells Calum to hurry up and blast the ceiling with a fireball, as the thing needs to come down now. It continues to rapid fire the shots, and Calum says that with it exposing its position like this, it'll be easy, and there won't be many chances, so he needs to deal a ton of damage at once. His hourglass turns on, and since he has 4 charges, he decides to go all out and casts fireball after fireball after fireball. Now with a single action remaining, you guessed it, another fireball. Since all actions have been consumed, the turn ends, and all the fireballs shoot up in the sky towards the boss. Right on its mouth, they explode, creating a massive explosion. Zickel, Emma, and Virtanen all just confused, asking how he cast 4 spells, and there wasn't even a chant. As the fire starts to spread, Calum tells everyone to focus, and this is their chance. From experience, he knows they can't miss this chance for burst damage. He tells Yurnal to shoot, and she starts doing so as the boss is burning, falling to the ground. She lets out not 1 arrow, but 6. 3 of them bounce off with no damage. He tells her to wait for a minute, as using a goblin bow is meaningless. The boss heads to the ground, and the fire surges up towards the ceiling. He tells Emma to make a magic barrier, and as soon as the barrier is up, Zickel needs to charge in. Zickel calls him a rookie, asking why he's ordering him around, but understands this is the right call. As the smoke from the fire starts to settle, Zickel charges straight in towards the spider. The spider raises its legs and starts to attack Zickel, but he locks in using an ability called Leaping Ambush. He cuts off 2 of its legs, flying high over it. The boss starts to scream and falls onto its back into a defensive position. Virtanen says that it's going to blow, and that Emma needs to get ready. She then casts a spell called Constellation Shield, putting a barrier up in front of all of them. Calum says that this means they knew the pattern and prepared for it, but rather than blocking the poison sac explosion, before the poison inside can explode, freezing it solid is the best way, as he shoots out Ice Lance straight towards the boss. It hits its egg sac and causes it to freeze over. He says that now that he's done that, Emma needs to fall back, and Virtanen needs to charge in. Emma is confused, and Calum yells, telling Virtanen to hurry up with his burst damage. Virtanen tells him that normally, they just need to keep up the shield, but he yells, telling him to do as he says. They're so bad at listening, and in the game, all he had to do was click. Virtanen charges in, saying that he sure does have a new temper, and leaps up off the ground, raising his axe high over him, and uses his ability called the Great Shattering Cleave straight down on the boss's head, sending a shockwave through the room. With his axe now buried into its skull, he pulls it out, saying it's over, and raises it overhead. He says surely these guys do understand that when the boss is the boss, there is a very low chance, but it's possible there is a second phase. They then start saying that they finally got it, and even if it was just the first floor boss, they could not let their guard down. Yurnal sees Calum holding his wand, and Calum says they said the magical word, they got it. She wonders why he's still holding onto it, and he tells her to look up for a second. She does, wondering why, and then is horrified, asking what all that shit is. The rest also look up, but Emma says it's too dark for her to see, wondering if there's something there. Zickel, though, sees it and starts freaking out, asking what that is as it's covered with hundreds of spider eggs. Virtanen says there's no way, and he's never seen anything like this before. Even Emma says there's no mention of a second phase. Calum tells Urnal to roll that barrel over, and she needs to do it with all of her strength. She runs over to the explosive barrels and starts rolling it towards him. Virtanen stops it from rolling, asking if he wants him to yeet this. Calum says yes, but Virtanen tells him he doesn't know where to aim it. Calum says that's simple, telling Emma to cast weapon light on Urnal's arrow. She says okay, and stretches her hand out and starts doing so. Calum tells Urnal to raise her bow and shoot that towards the ceiling. She says okay, and fires it straight up towards the ceiling into a cluster of eggs. Virtanen says he can see it now, and yeets the piss out of the barrel straight up, and right as it's at the apex of the throw, Calum says now's the time. He activates the hourglass for his turn, and casts 4 fireballs before it forcibly ends his turn. The fireballs spiral up just like they did towards the boss, and they hit the barrel, exploding it. Virtanen's party says yet again he did a silent cast with ultra-fast chanting, and they wonder if it's always been this easy. He may be a slave, but his talent is insane. They wonder who the hell he is. Calum sees a bright light in front of him as the exit gate has now opened, and he sighs out of relief, saying it's finally over. Raiding with a skilled party is definitely easier, but not being able to control things like in a game is frustrating. Zickel approaches him, asking him who he is. It turns out that he's just genuinely surprised, saying that for him not trying to poison them and kill them all, he's honestly just impressed. Calum says he didn't think about that, but if he did, he could have claimed the gate. Zickel says that he's glad he didn't, and Virtanen says he was impressed. That level of skill is way beyond what you would expect from a slave, wondering what he was doing before all of this. Calum was just addicted to this game, and he wonders what the actual character was doing. He says that he was just a slave at the Magic Academy. Virtanen says that he's probably hiding his past for a reason, but he won't force it out of him. Urnal then approaches, saying that she didn't expect them to beat it without a scratch, and they're seriously lucky. Virtanen says he honestly didn't have high hopes, and he only made the contract quickly thinking they would all die. Urnal is surprised, and Calum says that's why the fee was calculated the way it was. But in the end, Virtanen got his money's worth. Virtanen says he certainly did, but it's not over yet. Calum says that's right. Zickel wonders what he's talking about since they found the gate, and Calum says that because the settlement has to be done in the village. Urnal is surprised, and Emma says yes, the contract terms said that the party must pass through the exit gate. Until then, the contract isn't fulfilled. She says the gate's right there, and they surely think they can just go through it, and point towards it. Emma says unfortunately, a contract sworn before the goddess of fairness must be honored to the exact letter, and they also need to cross the gate. She says they can't make it out though, and Emma says that means the contract cannot be completed inside of the dungeon, and if they don't escape it will be nullified. Calum says no one in their right mind would bring 10,000 gold into a dungeon, and the system is designed so anyone who can't make it back suffers. She asks him if he knew about this, and Calum says yes, as high-value dungeon contracts are always settled back in town. Zickel says no wonder Virtanen offered 9,500, and he had a feeling, but it was as expected. Virtanen says that he's managing this party's finances responsibly. Zickel says that with this talent, it'd be a waste if he died, and he needs to make sure he comes back and robs the dwarf's wallet. They say it's time to head out. Calum tells them to wait a second, since this backpack belonged to one of their party members, and it's a bison's. They're all surprised, and Virtanen runs over asking if he's certain, and he says that it did look familiar, wondering where his body is. He says they didn't find it, and it was from loot that another slave team had they fought with. Emma and Zickel are surprised, and Virtanen says he assumes he wants something in return for this. Calum says he just wants the backpack itself, excluding the personal belongings of a bison. Virtanen is glad he doesn't want money, and laughs, saying that he'll give it to him, but also they'll add some food supplies of theirs. Calum asks if he's really going to hand over all of their food supplies, as he doesn't think they're going to head straight back to town. Virtanen says that it takes time to receive a resurrection scroll. Emma says that she's already brought one with her though. And Calum asks how. They let him know that they already revived a bison once, and Calum says this dude needs to find a new career path. Virtanen says honestly he's 100 times more competent than a bison, and they all laugh, saying they should have recruited him from the start. Yrnel starts processing it in her head, and Calum says better luck next time, though it'll cost more. Virtanen says he talks big, but he'll be watching, and Yrnel raises her hand, calling out to them asking if they can just take Calum back with them. They're all just surprised that she's willing to sacrifice herself, and even he is. She says as long as one of their party members makes it back to town, it counts, because neither party was annihilated, and that he can claim the 9,500 gold, become a free man, and officially join their party, and even gear up properly with the money. Emma asks what she plans to do then, as even a mage like Calum would struggle to survive, and she won't last a single day. Silent, she thinks about it, before saying that she doesn't think they'll ever find the exit room again, and at this rate, they'll both end up dying in the labyrinth, and he shouldn't just stay here because of her. She would have died a long time ago if she'd been on her own. It's only thanks to him that she's made it this far. He's just surprised that she's willing to go this far, and she starts crying, thanking him, saying that she'll never forget him, and that he should live on well for her sake too. Virtanen then tells Yrnel that normally recruiting members from another party is considered rude inside a dungeon. She asks why they were doing that at the exit room then, and he says that he only thought of them as criminal slaves they could use to take the boss down, and he didn't think about what came after, so he's sorry. But now it's different. He wants to treat them not as slaves, but as a proper party, so he would like to make the both of them an offer. First, if Calum is willing, he would like to officially recruit him. If he joins their party, they'll offer a 25% profit share and a payment of 9,500 gold. Calum says this is quite a generous offer, as Yrnel reassures him by grabbing onto his hand, saying that she'll be fine and manage on her own, and she really does not want him to die because of her, and they should just part with smiles. The status window appears, saying that this is an hourglass expansion opportunity. If he stays by Yrnel's side now, her trust level will reach 100%. This catches him off guard, and he wonders what this is. He reads into it, and it says that if he maintains her trust above 80% afterward, he'll be able to give her commands during his turn. After his turn ends, she will carry out the command of her own will. He says this is crazy, and now that he thinks about it, in the game, special abilities got upgraded through different routes depending on level ups, and it looks like it's the same in real life. The skill expansion is the ability to command party members. If he gives the command on his turn and ends it, that means she will act immediately upon it, but she's just wondering why he's not leaving. Of course, he probably can't give her orders that exceed her limits, and that wouldn't make any sense, and the commands he can give will likely be simple actions, such as for her to drop her shield and shoot a spider, and in terms of action points, it's probably 1 point per move, just like for him. The dwarf party never listened at all, but she was always acting as soon as his turn ended. Considering how a single point of action affects combat, he smiles, saying this is great. Virtanen asks what he thinks, but Calum says he needs to think more. He activates the hourglass to give himself a minute of calm so he can think. He wonders which is the greatest benefit. He doesn't know what kind of butterfly effect this choice will have, so he needs to be cautious. He can either take the hourglass upgrade in Yrnel, or escape the dungeon right now and break free from slavery, and become a member of a seasoned party with the dwarf. His turn ends, and he's made up his mind. He grabs Yrnel's arm, saying that he appreciates the offer, but his answer remains the same, and he's going to escape together with Yrnel. As originally planned, the three of them should go through the gate. She starts sobbing uncontrollably, and they're just surprised that he's giving this chance up, asking if he's serious. He says that he is. Even if this were a game, he'd have made the same choice. Thinking ahead, raising Yrnel is the smarter move. He's not that cold-hearted. He didn't abandon a crying woman either. She asks why he's not leaving. He's already plenty stressed, so she needs to be quiet. He says leaving her behind would be awful for his conscience. Zickle approaches him and shouts, but it's because he's crying, saying that he's one hell of a guy, and that he can't believe how much of a man he is. Emma also says that the Magic Academy really scouted a good one this time, and Virtanen says he wants him even more now. Emma says that she's sorry to ruin the moment, but wonders how they're going to defeat the next boss alone. He asks if they could take the spider's corpse. Virtanen says that's not right. A touching moment is one thing, but this is something else. Calum says this guy is autistic because he has no situational awareness. He says that he'll just buy it, and they should deduct the 1,300 from the 9,500 reward. They agree, but charge him an extra 200. Calum says okay, and then Virtanen asks for Urnal's name. She freezes up, and he asks if her name is Pretty Lady, but she says that her name is Urnal. He keeps calling her Pretty Lady, saying that the sincerity she showed was cooler than the fireball shenanigans Calum was doing, and the two of them need to make sure to return alive, and he's going to give them both a token of support. As he hands her 4 health potions, she thanks him. Virtanen says that if he makes it out of town, he'll buy him a drink, and Calum says it better be 2. Emma then says that when they get out of town, they need to look for her at the Temple of Nathaniel, and she'll be waiting there to pay the reward directly. Calum thanks her, and then she gives them Nathaniel's blessing, saying that she's going to pray for their safe return. Calum says in-game, this blessing gave +1 to all stats for 12 hours, and its immunity to curses and decay. They decide that it's time for them to finally head back to town, and they give them one last stare before the gate. Zickle tells them to remember his name, as Emma wishes him the best. Virtanen starts digging through his bag, saying that it's going to be farewell for now, pulling out an E-ranked mana stone. It counts as one person passing through the gate, and he rolls it through, now showing only one person can leave. He says that if they make it back to the city alive, to come find him at the Adventurers Guild. He tells them his name once more, saying that he knows they'll come, so he'll be waiting. The gate then closes up, as Urnal drops to her knees, and she wonders why he stayed, and how they're meant to clear the exit room again. He says that he knew it was too much to hope for, but she shouldn't worry, as his body has been steeped into this game for so long, he's calculated everything already. He tells her not to cry, as they can totally do this, and first, they can rip out the spider's fangs from its corpse. She says okay, and starts crying, but we see her trust has reached 100%, and he can now command her during his turn. She says that it's not that she doesn't want to work, and she's ready to do anything he wants to, no matter what it is. He can even use her as a shield, but surely it would be faster if they gather the materials together. He says that she needs to trust him, as there's a reason for everything, and she should focus on pulling out the fangs. She says yes sir, and he says that he wants to help, but the item extraction success rate is proportionate to the dexterity stat, and she's got a better shot, since hers is 2 points higher than his. He needs to review the skill expansion system, and strategize for the battles ahead. It mentions everything we already know, but also adds that high difficulty actions or commands that go against her nature may be difficult to perform. He says that this kind of stuff definitely makes sense, and he'll have to test what kind of commands she can follow easily, and he needs to test it soon. She pulls out the fang, saying she got it, and he tells her it's good, and they can go. And they'll make poison arrows on the way. He starts smiling, saying that she was crying a minute ago, and they could die at any moment, but he's glad to see her super happy right now. He tells her to combine the poison thing with the goblin arrow, and she can create a poison arrow that way, and to do this as well as he hands it to her. She says that even if he makes new arrows for her, she's not sure if they'll be useful in an actual battle. He says the reason she couldn't deal any damage to the boss was because of her gear, and archery equipment is quite important. Since they can't get another bow yet, they should at least use good arrows. Bows are hard to make, but arrows are different. If you combine the materials to make and use a special arrow, you can draw out incredible power even with a shitty bow. He tells her that he's counting on her. The in-game success rate of the item combination was also proportional to dexterity, and it's low, so he's not expecting her to succeed, but she does at first try, asking if he means like this. He turns surprised, asking how she did that, and she says she just poked around it very carefully, and it worked. But that's easier said than done. If you mess up, the force control, the poison sac could burst, and you could die. Why the hell is he making her do something so dangerous? We see that she actually succeeded though, because he acquires the item, poison arrow. He tells her not to use them until he tells her to, so just keep them safe, and they can head out. She says okay, and they start heading down the hallway. He wonders if he should test his newly added hourglass feature, and activates his turn. With 4 actions left, he tells her to take the water bottle out of the bag and give it to him. It doesn't consume action points, and he's surprised, saying that it makes sense since it's not considered him acting directly. The turn ends, and she opens the bag, grabbing the water. He asks why she's doing this all of a sudden, and she says that it's a bit hot, and she thought he might be thirsty. He smiles, saying that he's now just curious how it'll work during combat. Some goblins appear further down, and he says that this is a good opportunity. He activates the hourglass, and uses one of his action points, casting Fireball, saying that he'll deal with the first one, and tells her to shoot the leg of the goblin in the back. He ends his turn, and she immediately releases an arrow. After the one goblin gets torched, we see it pierce through its friend's leg. It falls to the ground, screaming in pain, and he walks over, pointing the wand at its head, and casts Fireball. He asks why she shot through its leg and not its head. She says that's because the leg was easier to hit, and he says that if he gives out an order during his turn, she carries it out, regardless of her own will. This is good, and it'll help when there's a problem that's difficult for him to handle, for instance, things that only a woman can do. And come to think of it, there was an additional explanation about commands that are too difficult, and he wants to do a simple test to see how it works. He activates the hourglass, telling her to do a TikTok dance, and ends his turn, only for her to be confused. He says as expected, nothing would happen. He then activates the hourglass, saying to do any dance, and he wonders if this will work. So he ends his turn, and she immediately starts busting out into an actual TikTok dance for some reason. And before she realizes what she was doing, she starts to freak out, and he kind of just stares, saying that he now understands how it works. She apologizes, and he tells her they can just keep walking for now. As they head further into the labyrinth, he goes to take off his bag and grab some water out, and says that he needs to know one important thing. So he activates the hourglass, saying that before they head deeper in, he wants her to say everything she knows about him. She says that she heard people talking when they were on the slave ship together, and the reason he became a slave was none other than murder. This causes him to spit out his water, and she asks if he's okay. He says that he's fine, asking why she's bringing it up. She says that she thought he was scary, and she's glad that he's not, and that he definitely had his own reason. And panicked, he says that's right, and realizes this is a disaster. Apparently, he killed a foxskin woman who was his teammate. Calum says that in the game, they were skilled in magic and smart, and not only that, they were characters who easily charmed people with their looks. Urnal says that she probably committed a crime worthy of death, as the Calum she knows would never have done that without reason. He says that she's low-key kind of a fanatic, and he's sorry for that. And he tells her that a lot has happened. She says that before, he mentioned that he was active as a labyrinth adventurer, and that the Magic University puts one person with labyrinth experience into each 4-person slave party. And now, she thinks she knows why they formed the teams that way, because since he's here, she's really glad. He says that he wonders more about him before he possessed the body, and as they turn the corner, she's surprised, as they see another exit room. Calum says he did expect another one, but finding it already is too lucky, and it makes him more anxious. She then tells him to look at this, as she's pointing at a person on the floor. She says it's definitely a bison, and that soul preservation magic just makes it look like he's sleeping. And he's also really neat and pale, wondering if he might be a rich boy. Calum says that he most likely is, since soul preservation magic is expensive, and slaves couldn't even dream of it. She says this is the first time she's seen it in person, and Calum says he wonders if they recovered the body and take it out. Maybe a bison's family will give them a reward, but more importantly, one of his legs is missing. He asks if she hears the sound of anything eating meat nearby. She listens, saying that she does hear a very unpleasant sound, and he asks if it's maybe the sound of wings. She says no, and he says this is strange. If he was taken down by a black hornet, like the dwarf said, it would leave its spot or hunt for more while it has its prey. He tells her that they should head towards the sound, and she says that they don't have to go anywhere. As soon as she turns the corner, she points, saying it's in this other one, and they turn, and we see the culprit was a black hornet larva. Calum's surprised that it disappeared, leaving its young, saying if adventurers had defeated it, there should be traces of a battle, and for the larva to be left here alone is strange, unless it encountered a stronger entity, and there's no way the strongest monster on the first floor would have run away. He then has a gross realization, asking if any adventurer has gone missing on the first floor recently. She says she doesn't know the details, but she heard a rogue called Mr. Back went missing. Something about how he single-handedly defeated a black hornet when all of his party members were defeated. But wonders why he's asking. Calum says that he's sure of it now. A rogue, the worst possible matchup for a mage. She asks what's wrong, and asks if she's ever heard of a possessed adventurer. She says she hasn't. He says that's to be expected. It's an extremely rare occurrence in the labyrinth. Even after clearing countless rounds in the game, there's only one case where a possessed adventurer appeared as the exit boss on the first floor. It's a state where an adventurer's soul is captured by the labyrinth master, turning them into a servant. They have an incurable madness status effect, and they use the same skills and magic from their adventurer days, but are much more powerful, which makes them a pain to deal with. He says no wonder they found the exit room so quickly, as the labyrinth master is toying with them. He says this is a headache, and she can tell he's panicked, and starts crying, asking if they're done for, realizing that he can't show himself losing composure. He apologizes, telling her not to worry. It's a difficult situation, but they can definitely do it. She asks if he's certain. He says of course, as he's here after all. It jumps to a tavern in the city, and we hear a guy laughing at Virtanen, but Virtanen tells him to be serious. The bartender says that he needs to be realistic, and there's no way there's a chantless, ultra-fast caster, as either one of those things is a once-in-a-century occurrence. Virtanen says that if he doesn't want to believe it, then don't, and the bartender says that he made it back, and that's what matters, telling him to hold on a second. He pours him a cup, and Virtanen asks why he's doing this, as he hasn't ordered anything yet. He says he thought he ordered it with a chantless spell and laughs at him, telling him to hurry up and chug it at ultra speed. Bro was really flaming him. Virtanen downs it, and the bartender asks how Zuckle was. He says not bad, he's still lacking in experience within the labyrinth, but his skills are solid. The bartender says of course, everyone he introduces is a promising talent, and he should give him a bit more experience, and he'll probably be the next Mr. Back. Virtanen says Back is a legend among the first floor adventurers. He's someone who could have pulled double duty even in a second floor party, and he won't be able to compare just yet. He can't believe someone like that got taken over by the labyrinth master. The bartender says it's a real shame. Virtanen says it's an even greater tragedy for the adventurer who meets Back as a boss. The door then gets slammed open, and a woman starts screaming at Virtanen and starts crying about her son, asking if it's true that a bison is dead. Virtanen says he's sorry, but it is. While searching for the exit, he went ahead on his own and was taken by a black hornet. She starts crying and says that she asked him to take care of her son. Her other son says that his soul preservation might still be intact, and they should stay calm and hear Virtanen out. And of course, a bison's death is not either of their faults. But then, in a very cold tone, he says surely he wouldn't let things end so foolishly. Not when a member of the Burton family has died, and he's already made plans to rescue a bison. Virtanen says that the magic lasts for a week, and there should be no issue reviving a bison. Their resurrection scroll will be ready in 3 days, and they plan to depart around then. A bison's brother says that it seems a bit tight, and asks if they can locate a bison right away. He says that he'll use this to cast a tracking spell on Izid to find him. He then tells them a genius mage found it for them. A bison's brother asks about it. The bartender says apparently it's a slave mage who cast ultra fast and without chanting. Virtanen says that he can't believe he's still mocking him, and it's true. The guy asks if it's really time for jokes, and his name is Clarence. His mother says that maybe that mage recovered his body, but Clarence is annoyed. Virtanen says it's possible, and their party only had 2 members. Clarence sighs, saying that he doesn't need to hear any more about a 2-member party. But his mother says that this isn't the time for him to be acting down, and no matter the cost, she'll pay a reward for the retrieval of a bison's body. A crocodile hears this and slides his chair back, asking how much she's willing to offer. This is a lizard, my bad. He tells her that hiring them would be easy, as they operate on the 3rd floor, and unlike Virtanen, they don't fumble. But Clarence tells the dude to be quiet unless spoken to, scaring him off, and he runs back to his table. Clarence says that if his mother tries to solve everything with money, she's bound to attract the wrong kind of people. She says that if she doesn't do something like this, no one's going to find his little brother. He says that he'll go himself with Virtanen. Virtanen says that if a 5th floor mage is going with, then he'll welcome it. Clarence says that he's his brother, so he should be the one to bring him back, and that genius mage intrigues him too. Back to Calum, he says that they need to call this off. She asks what he's talking about, and he says that they're waiting for the dwarf party. At this rate, the larva will starve to death within 2 days. It's still the spawn of a monster that's considered a boss on the 1st floor. The scent is keeping others away, but once it fades, they'll catch on and start swarming, so they need to move. And it's also strangely valuable in its own way though, but they'll need to move. He's just surprised that it has use. She says that maybe they could wait for the next exit room, and he says no. If back attack is really here, a 1st floor level party has no chance of clearing it. Waiting for a new exit room is not an option. Their best bet is for Yurnal and him to take down back attack and make it out, and while it'll be tough, it's not like they're lacking in firepower. Yurnal asks if he thinks they can beat back attack. He smirks, saying that there is a way, but it's going to be difficult. She asks what it is, and she'll do whatever he says. He asks if she means anything, and she says yes. He smiles, saying that this is good, and they'll have to use a somewhat rough strategy. Later that day, after some rest, we see a giant explosion in the hallway, and some goblins look terrified. One of them gets shocked, and the other catches an arrow to the dome, and Calum says from now on, they're going through hellish training. Calum says they'll need to hunt 100 goblins. She looks scared, asking if she heard that right. He dashes off the floor, and they start speedrunning these goblins, killing them left and right. We get a pretty cool little montage of the two of them working together to easily handle all of the goblins they see. Calum says that level 5 is almost the limit on the 1st floor of the labyrinth. They've reached just over level 4 after defeating the spider. If they train hard for 2 days, leveling up is achievable. Reaching level 5 is important because it's the growth breakpoint where you can learn one more special ability, which should come in huge for him. He's going to collect only the most valuable magic stones and discard the rest. He tells her they should hunt the goblin shaman. He can tell that she's a little gassed out, but they need to hunt it and find the most useful scrolls. He says that they should hurry up and go after it. She says okay, bro is overworking her. That night, they're resting back by the larvae. He tells her she did a good job, and she's just panting, laying on the floor. He says fortunately they are ready. She says that the larvae's breathing sounds much weaker, almost like hers. He says that it's still alive, but it'll probably die by tomorrow since it has not eaten for days. She then wonders if they should feed it a bison. Calum says things have gotten hardcore, but not that bad. He says damaging a soul-preserved corpse is a serious crime, but it's a relief they managed to find all the necessary items in time. She wonders what they're going to do now. She sees him filling the orc barrel with water. She says this must be part of his plan. He says that's right, and it's almost ready. It's time to get some rest. She gets excited, and she says they should swap shifts, but he already lays down, saying he'll sleep first. She starts releasing killing intent, saying that he always has his reasons, and he says it can't be helped. If he doesn't sleep first, he can't level up or plan strategies. He tells her that it's not much, but he'll take watch for an extra 30 minutes during the shift change. She says okay, and immediately seems happier. She tells him to get some good rest then, and he says that she sure does have one scary side. He says that she should wake him up in 2.5 hours. He enters the rest state, and we see that his level has went from 4 to 5, and hers as well as 4 to 5. He can now select a new special ability. Calum says from now on they're gonna enter the exit room, and she says that she's not doubting him, but if he's really planning to face the boss looking like this. He says that what she sees isn't everything. The fact that they will defeat the boss remains unchanged. She says it's not that, she was just wondering if he would really be wearing this. He says of course, as the Black Hornet's egg is really hard. He has this eggshell as armor, and he's got the poor little larva crying. She says that shit reeks. The doors open to the boss room, and they enter it, seeing a man sitting on a throne across the room. He slowly stands up, and Calum tells him to bring it on. Mr. Backattack starts laughing menacingly before vanishing, instantly appearing behind the two of them, coming in with an attack to live up to his backshot name. It's now Calum's turn as the hourglass activates. He says that he couldn't see it, but seeing as the hourglass activated, he must have used the scale leaping ambush and is now behind his back. He anticipated the rogue's play pattern and aimed in advance, as it's already pointed directly in his face. Actual 4D chess. He says after landing a 4-shot lightning shock, he needs to command Urnal to douse him with water as soon as he's electrocuted. All action points have been consumed, ending his turn, putting his thing on a 60-second cooldown. Time unfreezes as Mr. Backattack gets shocked. While he's being electrocuted, he drops to his knees as Urnal grabs onto the orc barrel filled with water and douses him completely with it as he gets drenched. Calum says now he's in a soaked state and uses a skill called Ice Pick and launches it at him. He dodges with a zigzag, creating distance. Instead of coming in, and Calum says that's an ability called Shadow Leap. Since he used all of his movement skills before the cooldown resets, he tells her to lift the oak barrel as he starts to use the telekinesis wand. He tells her to burst it with an arrow as he holds it overhead. She releases the shot, and it explodes, causing the water to go everywhere. He then launches another ice pick, but this time he hits the water, and it's all over the floor, making it a harder environment for him to move around. Backattack realizes this, and Calum asks what he's gonna do now. He's probably gonna try to use cautious steps or wall walk, but instead, something flies in, breaking the hornet's eggshell in an instant. Urnal screams out his name, asking if he's okay, and he says he is, thanks to the eggshell. At this distance, he can't believe he used magic throw. Luckily, the destructive power is weakened due to the distance. The weapon then flies all the way back towards Mr. Backattack, and he grabs the dagger before he starts fading out. Calum says this is invisibility. He tells Urnal to find his position, and she says okay as she starts using her ears to listen. She hears him on the wall up above and shoots an arrow directly towards where he is. As it starts flying in towards him, it starts to get close to his face before he narrowly dodges, leaving him vulnerable in the air. He reaches towards his back and grabs a hold of something. Calum says that's a grenade, and the hourglass is still a long way off cooldown, but this is the only thing that he's been waiting for, and he starts smirking. He then looks at the black hornet larva and casts Ice Pick, absolutely deleting this thing. Calum says he leveled up for this very moment. The special ability is called Slaughterer's Momentum. As he pulls out the lightning wand once more, he starts aiming it down, and the hourglass activates. The special ability Slaughterer's Momentum, at least in-game, is an ability that recovers 2 action points upon killing an enemy. But now, the activation condition has changed. He gains a temporary 2-point hourglass that lasts for 60 seconds. He says that to use this, he painstakingly shared his food and dragged that larva all the way here. But the target is a bomb the size of a ping-pong ball, 10 meters away. But still, he has to hit it. As time is frozen, he starts lining it up, saying that he hopes that he does this right, and he casts Lightning Shock twice using both points, ending his turn forcibly. Time unfreezes as the lightning starts to fly out. It does hit the grenade that Backattack is carrying, causing an explosion in the sky above the two of them. He starts celebrating, saying that he did it, and it makes sense, as he was a special class marksman in the army after all. He then asks where he is, and she points, saying that he's still over there. He then launches an Ice Pick, hitting Backattack straight in the chest. As he starts to get frozen over, he lets out some grunts. Calum says the freeze status effect landed perfectly, so he won't be able to dodge anymore, and he tells her to hurry up and shoot. She draws back the poison arrow and releases the shot. It soars through the sky, hitting Backattack in the chest, and Calum says the level difference doesn't matter in the end. Since the poison sac hit directly, he's gonna die just by breathing. And if this all goes to plan, he'll die slowly. Now that he's exposed to the gas, he'll take 20 damage per second for 20 seconds. Even if he can't see a health bar like in-game, it'll be over in a few seconds, and he hopes that he doesn't struggle and just lets it happen. But then, to his surprise, a very bright light starts to appear in the middle of the poison miasma, dispersing it. Calum says that he shouldn't have hoped for a fluke and tells her it's time for Plan B, and he was really hoping it wouldn't come to this. The reason a possessed adventurer in the labyrinth is the most dangerous is because they can also use the special abilities from their time as an adventurer. As Backattack looks pissed. Calum says fortunately this is something he expected, and that he prepared Plan B to cover all possibilities. We get a flashback to before, and he says that they should fire just one poison arrow first and see what happens. She says that they should use both to have a chance of winning, and he says that he supposedly defeated a black hornet alone, which is suspicious, and that he might have a way to remove poison. Even if he's a skilled and agile thief, fighting a black hornet without getting grazed by its poison stinger even once is impossible. He got poisoned but didn't die, so it makes sense, asking if she agrees. She asks if this means that he's saying back attack can cure poison. He says no, since he's a thief, he wouldn't use magic. Based on his guess, if it's not bombs, potions, or scrolls, the only thing left would be special abilities. Confirming whether or not that he has detoxification is their top priority. She says that if he detoxifies immediately, does that mean they're finished? She starts to get panicked. He says no, and he smiles, saying it's time for plan B. Now that they see that's the case, as he's using a skill called Adrenaline Rush, it recovers 50 ELF points and resets the cooldowns of one of his first tier skills, and removes negative status effects. His eyes start to light up due to the adrenaline. He uses cautious steps, dashing through the ice, straight towards Calum. Calum says the hourglass cooldown still has 3 seconds left, and she wonders if she should shoot now. He says not yet, since he activated a movement skill, he'll dodge. To use plan B, he needs to create distance from Urnal. He then dashes forward instead of away, starts sliding on the ground, using the ice to carry him forward. Using lightning shot, he shoots it. Back attack dodges to the side, and then zigzags forward, grabbing onto Calum's wrist. He then starts to twist it, causing him to drop the wand and scream in pain. He then reaches his hand forward, grabbing Calum by the throat, and raises his dagger into the air. Calum yells for Urnal, and back attack looks up, seeing her holding an arrow. But in that instant, back attack carries him up, away from the ice. Calum gets stabbed in the chest, saying plan B. As he starts falling backward, Urnal screams out his name. He says this hurts like hell, and he needs to use the potion he got from Virtanen. As he starts drinking it, back attack reaches into his bag as well, and takes it out, starting to chug it. Calum says that he sure is a damn thief. Once the potion falls to the floor, back attack rears back his dagger. But now it's Calum's turn, as the hourglass activates. Calum smiles, saying that it's too late. He's glad that he fell for his bluff, and is moving exactly as planned. This is exactly the plan B he devised, and he'll survive on potion power, so she should give it her best shot. As he drinks another potion, taking an action point, he then grabs a scroll, which is another action point, saying that he won't be able to kill him with a dagger. He breaks the scroll, with 1 action point remaining, and tells Urnal to shoot him. While he may be persistent, it's now time to say goodbye. As he does something else, taking the final action, he smiles. With all of his action points being taken, the hourglass has been flipped again. As we see the dagger hit an invisible barrier on his chest, back attack is surprised, and Calum says that it's magic armor, saying surely he didn't know about this, and he starts to grab onto him. That was the scroll he used, and it nullifies up to 5 attacks, with the damage being 100 or less. He tells Urnal now is the time, as he starts getting shanked like he was in prison. She shoots the arrow, flying up towards his back, and it hits straight on his side. Calum asks how it feels to be hit by poison arrows twice. This is some Dragon Ball Z shit, and Calum yells, saying it's time for the real battle to begin. As the miasma starts to spread out, she yells, asking if he's okay. Back attack starts screaming and coughing up blood, and Calum says that he feels like his lungs are being shredded, and that he needs to continuously drink the potions. Back attack tries to push away from him, and Calum can't believe that he still has so much strength left. As he raises his dagger, he starts to thrust forward, but stops right before hitting him, and drops the dagger. He then starts to fall onto the ground. Calum realizes what this means, as the miasma also starts to disperse. He says this bastard finally died, but his consciousness is fading fast. As he falls to his knees, Urnal runs in, screaming that he better not die. He tells her to give him a potion. She says they won, so they have to get through the gate together. Even though he's constantly drinking potion, it still hurts like hell. Since the calculations were uncertain, even if he drank all of his potions, he still might die from the poison. She cries, saying that he can't die until he drinks this one as well, and he has no other choice but to try. The exit gate then starts to form, and he says that he thinks he'll survive now, and she shot that last arrow well. She says that because the terrain was blocking the view, she was worried whether the arrow would hit or not. He says all ranged attacks suffer penalties when shooting from low ground, and that back attack took the height with that in mind. He picked this for Urnal's level 5 special ability called Artillery Strike. It allows her arrows to ignore obstacles and shoot towards the target. He says he was confident that she would hit it, and she cries, saying that she's so glad. He says there's something they need to do before leaving. She wonders what it is, and he says that their exit gate has 2 spots left. She says that's right, and he says that he wants to take both the bison and back attack's bodies with them. Back at the tavern, Virtanen is asking someone why they are here since they don't even drink. Wondering if it's for them to check on the resurrection scroll. And it's none other than Clarence, who says that his little brother's life is on the line, so he ought to confirm it himself. Virtanen says the scroll that he requested will be ready today, so he should be able to enter the dungeon at around 5 a.m. Clarence is getting anxious, since the soul preservation magic doesn't have much time left. If the rescue fails, even if they did issue another scroll, resurrection won't be possible, and he needs to eliminate every variable and make this succeed. Emma barges into the tavern, saying that she's brought the scroll as requested. More importantly, they need to head to the dungeon office right now, as the first floor exit gate has been opened. They all seem surprised, and Clarence asks if she's sure that it was the first floor gate. She says that's what she has heard, and they have to go now. Virtanen says they need to go check it out, and Zickel jokingly says that he can smell Virtanen's money getting snatched. At the Dungeon Union underground control room, the gate opens, and we see a girl stretching, saying that it's been open forever, wondering why nobody's coming out, and that she's heard ridiculous rumors about ultra-fast casting and no chanting. She wonders why she has to go through this. Virtanen charges in, asking if anybody's coming out and if the gate's really open. Clarence then greets her, calling her instructor. She says that she heard the news, and she's wondering if he came to see if a bison made it out. He says yes, though he's not getting his hopes up. Finally, something starts to come out of the gate, and the instructor says that she hopes things went well for his brother, so he shouldn't worry too much, and she wants to see who it is. Only to see a bison's corpse stick his head through the gate, she starts screaming after seeing this, wondering what's wrong with his face. Virtanen and the rest are surprised, and Clarence runs over. It then starts to change color, showing that someone else is coming out, as back attack is thrown onto the floor. Emma's surprised, as she also recognizes him. The instructor freaks out, since half of the people coming out are corpses, and wonders what's going on, and if a 2-person party really defeated Mr. Back Attack. Clarence starts to recall the rumors about how there is a slave mage who can cast without chanting, and he wonders if it's really true. It shifts color once more, and Virtanen asks if that's Calum, but Urnal steps out, saying that it's her instead, but he'll be out soon. They're just glad that they made it out, and they say they had faith. She says that Calum did all the work. The instructor says that she's part of the slave team from the Magic Academy, and Urnal asks if there's something wrong. The instructor says that even for a skilled duo, beating Back Attack would be massive news, but it was just a 2-person slave party with ass weapons, and they formed just a few days ago, wondering how they pulled it off. It changes as Calum stretches his hand out, he slowly exits, actually aura farming because of the blood on his shirt. Zickel says that they really did it, and Emma says that she's moved, they even brought back a bison's body. Virtanen sees the blood, wondering if he's hurt. Calum says that it's really noisy, and calls out to Emma, saying that he needs their gold, and he starts to pass out into Urnal's arms. She screams out his name, and they are taken to the temple of Nathaniel. Calum slowly opens his eyes, asking what happened, and Emma says that he passed out the moment he stepped out. He collapsed due to a drug overdose from ingesting too many healing potions. He says he had to survive without an antidote somehow, and asked for the payment. She says that it's on the desk, and not to worry, wondering if he would like to check it. He does, and wonders why there's only 7,850, and he says he's short some gold. She says that's the treatment fee, and he says he never asked for it. She says that Urnal did, though. Calum can't believe that she meddled in this, but he should be glad she's worried. She then asks if they'll be heading to the academy to reclaim their citizen status. He says that he's more worried about what happened to a bison and back attack. She says a bison is being treated in the resurrection chamber, and the revival process should begin soon. As for back attack, he is already sent to the morgue. Calum asks if he can't be revived, and she says that his body didn't have soul preservation magic cast on it, and unfortunately, reviving back attack is impossible. As soul preservation magic is a spell that binds the soul to the body, the duration lasts 1 week, so if the body is retrieved within that time period, it's possible. But in back attack's case, there's a loophole. If the dungeon master extracted his soul and stored it in a jar like pickled kimchi, and you retrieve that soul from the sanctuary of souls, revival will be possible. They must have said it's impossible because they don't know the sanctuary's existence, and he only discovered it at the God of Strategy difficulty level. He tells her that he's gonna be going now, and she gives him another blessing as he heads out to the Magic Academy. Urnal's already there, and she greets him, asking if he's feeling better. He says he is, and that they should go use this money to free themselves from slavery. She gets excited. But they say that after some calculations, Urnal can't be freed from her slave status, immediately taking her smile away, and Calum asks what they're talking about, because they should have more than enough. The guy says that the price for free citizen status is 3,000 gold, but based on her contribution, her share is only 2 gold, therefore she can't become a free citizen. Calum says that he doesn't quite understand, wondering what the standard is for calculation and distribution. The guy says it would be better to show him in person rather than explain it. The scales of fairness measure what each person contributed to the adventure. According to the Virtanen party's testimony, this is the level of her contribution in the exit battle room. Calum says he's never seen this magic in the game, and he says that her contribution is too low, and that she personally crafted the weapon that defeated back attack. He asks if that has anything to do with the Virtanen party's contract. He says that because the plan was to acquire the poison arrow and clear the next exit room, if she didn't have the dexterity to process the poison fang, he wouldn't have proposed the contract in the first place. She starts crying. The guy thinks about it, and as the scale starts to get adjusted, he says it has been recorded on the scales of fairness, and they can begin the full calculation for their adventure. He then casts lie prevention magic as well, meaning that neither of them are able to speak anything but the truth. The guy tells them to understand that this is the manual used when evaluating a slave's team contribution, and his tongue might also feel a bit numb. They should place their bags on the table, and truthfully recount their adventure and contributions up until they left the labyrinth. Calum goes up first, and he says they'll begin with his testimony. He says that they need to escape slavery together. The total amount from selling various magic stones and back attacks belongings is 14,600 gold. This is about the earnings of a typical 4-person party on the first floor, but out of this, her share is only 20%. Even with her total settlement, it doesn't even reach the 3,000 she needs. Calum says that he thought he tried pretty hard, and he wonders why it's only 20%, and this isn't enough money. She starts to cry and get disappointed. The guy asks if she's disappointed, saying that the average income for slaves in the labyrinth is 500 gold, and that's only if they make it through the 10% survival rate. The fact that she's alive, and this income she is now, none of it was earned because she was skilled. All she did was meet Calum, and move according to a strategy. To put it coldly, all she did was shoot 2 poison arrows, and she is an existence that can be replaced by anyone who can listen to his instructions. Nevertheless, if she is dissatisfied with the profit distribution, she can protest now. She says that she accepts the decision, and Calum really wonders why the assistant had to say it like that to make her feel worse. He tells Calum if he's thinking of showing any kindness, to stop. Sending criminals who were slaves into the labyrinth is also a form of punishment. He says he understands, and wonders if he'll use his gold to buy his status as a free man. He says yes, and takes 3,000 gold away from him, but gets rid of the collar on his neck using magic. The guy congratulates him, saying they will now conclude the evaluation. 2 men enter, and they are about to take Urnal to the slave quarters. They say she's good with the bow, so it would be well worth to sell her to the Adventurers Guild. Calum says he's going to have to go find her later. The assistant says before that, he needs to ask if he has any intention on enrolling in the university, as they can't afford to lose a mage who possesses the talent of no chanting and high-speed casting. If he enrolls, they will not spare any support in all aspects. Calum says seeing his attitude is changing, He definitely sees him as a free man now. Many mages must have died in the labyrinth's eruption, so they wouldn't want to lose him. He asks what benefits he would get. The assistant says first of all, his magic talent is outstanding. Someone then enters the room, asking if this is the guy from the rumors. The assistant calls her Professor Malini, asking what she's doing here. She says that she's here to see a genius mage with no chanting and ultra speed casting, and we see the instructor from the exit gate with her as well. She says she wanted to see with her own eyes. Calum introduces himself, and she says she likes the look in his eyes, and the admissions guide isn't important right now. But he hasn't been a free man for long, so she'll ask him one thing. What he thinks is the mission of a mage. He says that it's to develop new magic, or subjugate labyrinth monsters. Malini says that's wrong. There is a mission more noble than that, and that is to eliminate the otherworld possessors. His heart starts to sink, and she says for quite a long time, there has been much damage from the labyrinth's eruptions. To stop this, they have not given up the chase for a long time. As a result of investigating the monster's movements, direction, and the timing of the labyrinth's eruptions, there's only one reason for it, and it's because of the numerous possessors who have crossed over into this world. And when they don't enter the labyrinth for more than 2 weeks, they also found out that it erupts to eliminate them. And she doesn't know why, but they must do that for the sake of peace. He says it seems like he's not destined to live peacefully, even as a free man. And she says that looking at his record, he was a labyrinth adventurer from the far eastern city of Windham. He was tried and became a slave for the crime of murdering a colleague, and testified that the motive for the crime was that she was an otherworld possessor. This catches him off guard, and she says that he'll fit right in, and to cut to the chase, he needs to join the possessor identification club that she leads, saying surely he's not a possessor himself, and laughs it off. He doesn't say anything, and she asks why he's silent. And he realizes he would have been in big trouble if he'd answered rashly, because he can't lie due to him still having the lie prevention magic cast on him. If you've watched till the end, comment, Kiwi, to let me know. If you like this series so far, I recommend Kill the Hero. It's a completed series on my channel by the same artist, not author, just same art style, but still a good series. Link in the description. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.